come on in to All Things Odd. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
I'm Dr. Hannah Galloway.
And I'm Whitney.
All right, I am sharing this out so that we can get people to come join. And I'm going to have Dr. Galloway and Whitney talk about our YouTube channel.
Yes, so if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see we have 86 videos. So there's plenty of content there for you and lots of good thumbnail images as well to describe what we're talking about. We have 61 subscribers, so we keep getting new subscribers. I think this is a good way to send things to someone that doesn't have Facebook or social media, and then it kind of lets them see all of our videos. So feel free to get on there and subscribe or share to someone that you think might be a good subscriber of our videos. And we try to post them every Thursday, a new episode. Sometimes we skip a week if we're traveling or something. But if we do skip a week, you can go here and watch one of our old ones. So
yeah, awesome. All right. And just as a reminder, next week, Dr. Galloway and I will be at a business meeting. So we will not have the show next week, but the following week is Halloween. And so I've already come up with some thoughts about our possible topic for Halloween. I'm kind of excited about that. So hopefully you guys will join in on the 31st and that you're not trick-or-treating yet, but we'll have something ready for you for the 31st, but we will not be here next week. Okay, so I have to put up something here because I want to show. This kind of came up on one of our audiology boards this morning. And so I was thinking about it and I thought, you know what? Let's talk about this today. So this, can you guys see that? Okay. You know what? Let me just take this overlay off real quick. Okay. So this particular picture was posted in one of our audiology like groups, and it was talked about. And it was really interesting because basically what it is, it's a picture of the guy whose name is Charlie Kirk. And he is a political activist, author, podcast radio, talk show host. And apparently, I don't know if you can kind of see the top versus the bottom picture, but apparently he posted this picture. And on the top picture, he actually has earplugs in. And on the bottom picture, he removed it or he edited it out. And so, you know, first of all, I was thinking about it. I saw it this morning and I thought, and there were all these different comments from different audiologists about the importance of hearing protection devices. So we thought that it would be great to actually talk about this today. But before we get there, like some of our initial thoughts, I'll talk about some initial thoughts and then I'll have Dr. Galloway and Whitney kind of weigh in on this picture. But the reason why he removed the earplug, according to this post, was, or what you can see in those very small words up at the top, above the top picture, is because he was being called a beta. So, okay, me being the oldest audiologist here in the office, I had to look things up and I had to figure out, okay, what exactly does it mean if you're called a beta and what would have made him take out his earplug or edit it out, supposedly, right? And so I looked it up and one resource said that if you're called a beta as a nickname, that it was meant to be targeted to a son versus it's either Beatty or Betty, meaning a daughter. So beta versus Betty, son versus daughter. I'm thinking like this is probably a long time ago, maybe even before my time, but I have no idea. So if you guys are familiar with this, like comment and let us know. But normally an elder will call a younger man or boy a beta, and it's an affectionate way of addressing a person. So then I thought, okay, this possibly can't be the reason why he removed the earplug after being called a beta. And then I also noticed a more trendy source said that calling someone a beta means that they prefer someone else to be in charge and that they themselves might be more shy or lack confidence. Okay, well, that made more sense because if he's a political activist and a radio and podcast talk show host, you would think that, I don't want to be called a beta because I want to make sure that I seem like a powerful leader, right? Or like people can believe me. So anyway, I came into the office and I talked with Dr. Galloway and Whitney about this. Again, this is what we're talking about today because it came up, but I wanted to see what Dr. Galloway's thoughts were, as well as Whitney's thoughts about this initially.
Yeah. So when I came in, she was like, "What? Do you know what it means if somebody calls you a beta?" I was like, "Well, I guess I would say it's like, like the dog rankings of like alpha, beta, and it's actually omega, Natalie, for like the lower ranking for dogs." But that's where my mind went, and that does go along with the definition, because in a pack of dogs, you have alphas, and it's usually a male and a female alpha. And then you have betas, which are like the second tier, and they're subservient only to the alpha dogs, but they try to be in charge of all the other dogs. Mm-hmm. And then omega. And the omegas are like the bottom of the totem poles. They're the den cleaners. And so, dogs are pack animals, den animals. We have 3 dogs. And when we got our 3rd dog, we were noticing that he would go out into the yard and eat the poop of the other dogs. Well, that is a 3rd dog thing. That is an omega dog thing. They're the den cleaners. So talking about rank and alpha and beta and omega, that's kind of where my mind went. But it does kind of go along with what you were saying of somebody being, like a follower rather than a leader. So yeah, that was my context of beta.
Okay. What about you, Whitney?
I'm fortunate. I have a little sister-in-law. She's 16, so she keeps me hip. I kind of know that beta is not something you want to be called. Like, I've heard her say, like, he's so beta. And I don't know what it means by the affect in her voice. My mom must not be good. So I do agree. I think it's about, not being alpha, not being like a leader, not being number one. It kind of is like, it makes me think of like submissive, like you're just uncool. That's kind of what I think it means. So that's what I know about it.
That's so funny. Okay. So this is what we're talking about. Okay. So again, as a review, if you're just joining us or if you're catching this a little bit later, this came up in one of our audiology boards today, and it kind of made me think about it. I was looking at some of the comments from the audiologists and how we were more concerned about making sure that people got the right information out about using hearing protection devices. HPDs is sometimes what we shorten it for in our reports, if you see that. But also I wanted to kind of point out that, you know what, this is social media. And so like I did some digging as well, because you want to check your facts, right, on social media. I don't even know if this is a real true post. I'm sorry who posted it in our audiology board. Great conversation piece. But like somebody else had posted that the picture on Twitter was different. Like they could only find the one that had the earplug in. So, again, I just want to warn people, like what you see on social media doesn't necessarily mean that that's really what happened. Sometimes people are just fabricating some stories to try to kind of get some conversation going. So I'm not even really too sure if he did edit the earplug out. So Charlie Kirk, if you happen to be watching our show, I'm not sure if we believe this or not, but it's a conversation starter for us. And so I just wanted to kind of point that out. Okay, so I'm going to kind of remove this and we're going to talk a little bit more about some different, we just want to make sure that we're getting the right facts out there for you guys. Okay, so we're going to talk more about important facts about hearing protection from an audiologist point of view. So with that, I kind of wanted to pass it over to Dr. Galloway, and she'll kind of talk about when to use hearing protection devices first.
Yep. So when it's important to use hearing protective devices is when there's a loud sound level. There's things that are going to affect it that could make it more dangerous or less dangerous. Like let's talk about a concert. A concert is probably always good to our hearing protection, but an outdoor concert, the further you are from the stage, the less loud it's going to be. Whereas an indoor concert might be even, louder. So there's things to think about what kind of ear protection or how long you're going to be in that environment. There's also people that for their jobs, they need to be able to wear earplugs. People that work in manufacturing or factory settings, OSHA mandates that if they're working in these loud environments for long periods of time, they have to wear earplugs. Another example is like dentists or dental hygienists, wearing earplugs to protect themselves from those loud drill sounds. sporting events. So especially anything with like, motorized, like racing or anything like that, that's going to be really loud. Those are all places where it's really important to wear hearing protection. The time that you're in the loud sound matters. So I've had a lot of people ask, do I need to wear earplugs when I blow dry my hair? And the short answer is no, unless you have a really, really loud blow dryer or you're blow drying your hair for like really long periods of time every single day. Because at least for me, it's like, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. It's a short exposure. So it wouldn't be loud enough or long enough to warrant hearing protection. Same for like mowing the lawn, but it depends on how loud it is and how long you're doing it for. So ear protection, whether it's muffs or plugs or whatever, very important around loud sounds. And, if you want to learn more about it, like which plug is most appropriate or something like that, we're going to talk a little bit about different types and things as well.
Yeah. So like I remember having my teeth cleaned and my dental hygienist actually had earplugs in her ears, but they weren't fully plugged because she needed to be able to talk to me, right? Like, don't you love it? Like when your mouth is wide open and they're talking to you and they expect you to answer. And it's like, you have stuff in my mouth. But I noticed that she had earplugs and she made them and they were musicians earplugs, but basically they helped her still hear conversations, but it protected her against some of those loud tools. Another thing is my husband is a strength and conditioning coach. And so he's in the weight room with loud weights, but also loud music. And so I had made custom earplugs for him to use in order to make sure that I protected his hearing as well. But again, that he could be able to hear his athletes and be able to have conversations. Now, does he wear them? That's another topic of discussion. Hopefully if he tunes in or you guys know him and you're watching this show, you can kind of tap him on the shoulder a little bit so he doesn't get it from his wife. But the last I heard with his custom fancy schmancy earplugs that I made for him, that they're sitting in his drawer because, and this is very common too, so that's why I'm talking about it, because he thinks that if he wears his earplugs, he's going to look old and the athletes are going to think that he's not paying attention or can't hear him. So anyway, still recommended.
Well, I also have to add in that, and not through Natalie, but we had a volleyball coach come in last week and she was seeking some filtered earplugs for the same thing. She's a coach, so she needs to be able to, hear what's going on, but she's just in those loud sounds like all day. And so it was funny because I got to talking to her and she's a coach where Dr. Phillips' daughter plays volleyball. So it's a small world after all.
Yeah. So maybe, well, no, I was going to say maybe I should introduce them, but maybe I can't because of HIPAA. So never mind. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So coaches, dental hygienists, people with sensory issues, things like that. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about when not to use hearing protection devices, because I work a lot with people that have tinnitus or sounds in their ears, as well as sound sensitivity issues. And with both types of patients, they have a different perception of sounds. And so when you overprotect and you're wearing earplugs when you don't really need them, there's a possibility of you retraining your brain, tricking your brain to think that it needs to be quiet in order for you to function. And so, for example, a lot of times people think that, oh, I'm going to get some plugs to fall asleep better at night. Okay. And so anytime that somebody comes in and that's what they're here for is sleep plugs, I talk to them about a lot of different things, because if you're wearing sleep plugs all the time that attenuate fully, then I said, what happens if you travel and you left your sleep plugs at home and you forgot? Then what are you going to do? Because you just tricked your brain that it has to be a certain level for you to fall asleep, right? And so people that have different perceptions of sounds and difficulty with that, such as people that have tinnitus or even sound sensitivity, it is recommended not to wear earplugs too often. Now you think, okay, but if I have a sound sensitivity, wouldn't the earplugs help because it helps me, tolerate the sounds? That's great as far as processing why. However, the people that I work with sound sensitivity issues, again, you're tricking your brain that it has to essentially be softer for you in order for you to function. And so it is recommended, even with a sound sensitivity issue, to not use earplugs because you're going to actually make it worse. Same thing with tinnitus, not to overuse earplugs because you could make it worse. And instead, there are sound therapy options and other options to treat both tinnitus and sound sensitivity that we can help you with. So I would say when not to use it is if you have tinnitus or sound sensitivity, and come discuss with us some different options about that. Okay. So
Yeah.
with proper insertion, do you guys have anything else to add to either when to use it or when not to use it?
I think that's good.
Okay. So proper insertion, I'm going to have Whitney go over this because I'm going to bring up a picture, a couple of pictures. We'll do this one at a time. Okay,
Yeah.
so I blew this up because I wanted to show you a little bit closer about the insertion. So go ahead, Whitney.
Yeah. So, typically if I were to see him out and about, probably the first thought I would have is, I don't think his hearing protection is in deep enough. And so one important thing about hearing protection, it's kind of like if you wear hearing aids and you don't have your hearing aids in correctly, you're not going to get the best sound. Well, similar with hearing protection, if you don't have them inserted properly, they're not probably providing the protection that you think. And so I have a very similar, it's just a little foam. Sorry, my light is.
I'm going to take this screen out because we all do have earplugs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Whitney walk through how you put these in correctly, how you put them in right.
Mhm.
And then we're going to show you in each of our ears too, because sometimes ears are different sizes, right?
Yes,
but we want to
true.
show you compared to the picture, and I'll pop up the picture. But since we're bigger like this, we'll walk through with Whitney how to put it in, and then we'll come close and see if you can see what it looks like when we put them in our ears.
So because these expand, I really like to roll mine down and make it, as tiny as I can. I don't know if you can see how small it is. So I roll it down. So the next thing that I do to make sure I'm getting a deep insertion is I actually reach behind the ear I'm putting it in and I pull my ear up and back. I'm doing that because our ear canals are S-shaped. And by doing that, it's kind of straightening my ear canal and it allows for an easier insertion. So then I'm really going to work it in there and then I'm going to actually hold it. And I'm going to wait for it to start to expand. And as it expands, it should be forming exactly to my ear canal shape. And then after a while, I don't even know if you can see it in my ear.
Okay, everybody
That's a good
lean
thing.
forward and see if you can see it. I don't think you can see it in my ear as much either.
Mine is like you can barely see just a little.
Yeah, see, like if we turn sideways, like you can't even see it right here, right?
Yeah,
Unless we turn totally that way. But see, so let me put that picture back up. That is not even close to being inserted. How much? Like we should be able to see it. We should be able to see almost like half, if not like a fourth of what's showing right there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm not
I think
sure
it looks like
it's smaller.
I think it looks like what people do is just take the whole foam and then just don't do anything and then just do that. Like literally like this. That didn't change my hearing at all.
Right. Yeah. And if I'm going to take this down so you can see Hannah's.
And it's just
like it's totally sticking out. I can totally see the yellow now. Like I still have mine in.
That's not
and
in
like
my
you
ear
can't,
at all.
like you can barely see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can feel it and hear it seal off. So if you are the patient, you're putting in an earplug, once it's done its full expanding, you should be able to tell a significant difference. Like your ear is completely plugged with something and your hearing has changed on that side.
Yeah.
So if that's not the case, then
like honestly, and then when you take it out after it has expanded, there should be a little bit of a tug as you're pulling it out of your ear, right?
And you should see like an S almost. See, it's already.
Oh yeah. Mine is curved. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's the proper insertion. So again, like it kills me because, and I don't know if you guys have gone to concerts or loud places where like, don't you feel like you just want to like push it into the ear and
Yeah.
tell them like, okay, can I just show you how to do this right?
Yeah.
Because again, we're concerned and we want to make sure that people are protecting their hearing. And again, putting this one picture back up that we've been talking about, that looks like he literally didn't take anything and just put it in his ear.
Well, and the other thing that I have to bring up is maybe he didn't whether he edited the photo or not. Maybe the photo was edited because someone was embarrassed about the poor insertion. I mean, honestly, because that's not even doing anything. And so it is embarrassing that
Good point. Maybe
tried
he
to
has
wear
an
it.
audiologist that is like, oh dear. Yeah, like we got to get this guy out of beta status.
Yeah.
And make sure that he has proper insertion. Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is, there's different types of hearing protection. So foam plugs are actually bottom of my list for favorite types of hearing protection. I think they're difficult for people to know how to insert properly. I think even for myself, when I wear them, if I'm out at a concert or something and I'm talking and, doing things, they kind of start to work out of your ears, especially if you have any perspiration or anything. So I don't love foam earplugs, but they're usually the most readily available. And I've been encouraged that lately I can see them at concerts like for sale because, in my younger days, that was never a thing. And now you can almost always find a pair of foam earplugs for sale.
Yeah.
There's different types of hearing protection and they protect your hearing different amounts. So if you go and buy a package of earplugs at the store, you're going to see a rating on it that's called NRR, and that means noise reduction rating. So that's sort of the only baseline to go off of how much is this going to protect my ears versus something else. Whitney and I went to the same university, so we probably have the same things drilled into our heads, but we know that the NRR is not really relevant because that's in a perfect setting in a lab. Whenever we test things in audiology, we use KEMAR, which is a mannequin that his ear is the exact size of an ear, a human ear. So we do a lot of testing on him. The NRR's values are obtained in a lab using him with someone expertly inserting the plug, and it's not even into a real ear. So, there's things that could be different. And I actually found a study where they went in, and this was like from 94, so it's old, but if you happen to have a handy dandy copy of the audiologist desk reference, there is a study in here that talks about the NRRs of products versus what people actually got whenever they replicated it like in a sound booth. So it's interesting because none of them are what were the advertised NRR. So that being said, you can do non-custom hearing protection or you could do custom. So non-custom is like muffs, foam earplugs, or like the little flange plugs. Those look like little Christmas trees. I would say that those NRRs are probably less applicable than the NRR of a custom plug, just because your fit is likely to not be as good because it's not custom. So for earmuffs, you're going to get about 21. Foam earplugs 33 and flange earplugs 27 decibels of noise reduction rating. That's just the advertised values. I took those from Howard Light just because I know that's a NRR on that photo was too. NRR for me, when I put that in my ear, was absolutely nothing. It was just like balanced there.
Yeah. Thanks, Corey, for tuning in. Corey is a fellow audiologist in Estes Park. So thanks, Corey.
Yeah. So those are kind of the different advertised NRR values for different kinds of non-custom hearing protection. When you do custom hearing protection, I feel better about the NRR because we know how we're taking the impression. We know how it's fitting in your ear. We could even do a little test in the booth, like with and without it, to make sure you're getting that. But with just like a custom solid plug, so no filter in it, just a passive plug, you can get about 27 decibels noise reduction rating. And then there's different filter options. I took these from Starkey's website. This is on with their Sound Gear products. And they do have non-custom sound gear products as well, but they have filters. So if you want a filtered earplug, you can get it with a 10 dB NRR, a 17 dB NRR, or a 26 dB NRR. So I'm talking about coaches or, photographers or somebody that's needing to communicate while they're in all of that noise. I know the coach last week, we did 17. So we were going to start with 17 and just see. And if you don't know, you can pop those filters in and out and order multiple sets. They also have high frequency filters and impulse noise reduction filters. So there's different types of filters for different types of noise exposure, and there's a lot out there. So if you have the general idea that you hate earplugs, you probably just haven't tried the right ones. So we are happy to help you with that. But there's all kinds of things out there.
So I've got a picture, and I want us to discuss the possible NRR rating for this and see what you guys think. I'm going to put it up here. So this is a previous coach that I know. Actually, he's a friend. And he had attended a concert with my husband, and I sent them with earplugs. And this is the picture that I received from them from said concert. So let's talk about NRR here.
Nose protection rating, NPR.
Yeah. So this
100%.
is not, but also, but he's got his fingers in his ears.
Yeah,
So
occlusion effect.
technically, yes.
He is doing something now. You'd have to make sure you held it there the whole time.
Exactly.
in a tight position. I mean, these are always your hearing protection on the go if you're somewhere loud, but I would say not using his resources very well.
Right. So, okay. So we did talk about, proper insertion. We talked about types of hearing protection devices. So I do love that, Whitney, you did say these right here in front of you are like your carry around noise protection devices. Like you always have them connected to your body. So, although we laugh and at first, you think, oh my gosh, like this, like NRR or whatever is nothing because he's got the earplugs in his nose, right? Technically not, because he is using his fingers as his earplugs, or protecting his ears. So there's that option also. But if you're going to go to a concert, it's probably recommended to actually use the earplugs, not in your nose, but in your ears. So I thought that would be funny to kind of put this up too and talk about that. Yeah.
It's funny that you talk about that being, something you have with you all the time to protect your ears, because my 2-year-old son has started to do that, but only when his sister is whining. And it's like this very discreet, just
I'm done.
Yeah. And it's in response to not just all loud sounds. It's just in response to like whining or like something that doesn't apply to him.
I can see audiologists, ask their kids whether they're like 2 or younger. All right, really? Is that really an NRR rating that you need to be used for, protecting your hearing against your sister?
Yes.
All right. So we've talked about types of hearing protection, when not to use it, when to use hearing protection as well. And then why should we use hearing protection devices? I'll have Dr. Galloway talk about that as well.
So why is to protect our hearing. Even if you have a hearing loss, you could lose more hearing. So we just need to protect our ears. And a lot of times patients will ask, well, I already have a hearing loss. So if I just take my hearing aids out, is that good enough? It's like, no, that's not good enough, because you can damage your ears further. And so we don't want to do that. Noise exposure is based on, it's logarithmic. So it depends how loud and for how long. And so I think that you can become educated about those things, and just know a little bit more about when it is actually necessary to be wearing them and when it's a short enough or not loud enough exposure that you need to be wearing them. So there's all kinds of different charts and things out there about how loud certain sounds are. You can download a sound level meter on your phone and it will tell you They are pretty accurate. They've done studies on them. And so that way you can kind of familiarize yourself. If you're a mom of toddlers, do I need to be putting, those muffs on them? Or is this an okay environment because we're only going to be here, 30 minutes or whatever? But I think people can feel more confident in their decision to wear it or not wear it if they become a little more familiar with what the exposure levels are, like what it means, how long you can be exposed to it. And I do believe we have another episode about that as well. Just kind of talking about how safe certain sounds are for how long.
Yeah. So again, if you guys are just joining us, go back and watch. We did start this conversation based on this post here that one of our friends put in one of our audiology groups. And again, just kind of taking a look at what's going on here is just looking at earplugs and when to use them. We wanted to start the conversation and make sure that what was being put out there is from our point of view as an audiologist, and things that you can do to kind of protect your hearing, whether or not you post with earplugs in or not, and how to put them in right. I was going to say incorrectly as well, but in the right way. So share this out. Hopefully you guys learned something. And again, this came from a post that was this morning. And so if there's something that you think is kind of interesting that you want us to talk about, that's what we do here on our live show. So join us, not next week because we won't be here, but the following week for Halloween, and we'll have something planned for Halloween. So we will see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.